Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the PISCOPOD. Thanks for tuning in. You know, I wanted to come on here. I felt compelled to come on here and discuss what's just blowing my mind. If you've been listening to some of my podcasts, you've heard me talk that I feel that something evil is afoot. And, if the past couple of weeks haven't opened your eyes to the fact that, maybe I'm onto something, and you probably are too, but, if you haven't tuned in and tuned up yet, yesterday's events at a university in Utah have to be sobering to any level-headed person. I'll be honest, I had a podcast recorded yesterday. I was going to come on yesterday and kind of talk about it. But, the old adage about, before you send that sharply worded email, sleep on it, save it as a draft, sleep on it. And, if you wake up in the morning and reread it and still feel like sending it, do it then, right? It's always a good practice. And, for once in my life, I thought, maybe I should kind of practice, what I preach. And so I thought, okay, I'm not going to post what I had recorded yesterday because honestly, I was angry, there's certain events that you go through in life that, it's hard to articulate, but I'm sure every one of you listening, has probably gone through at least one thing, but it's something that you go through or something that you experience that fundamentally just changes you, just changes things, just changes how you see the world, changes how you feel your part in the world. It just fundamentally changes you. And circle your calendars. Go back upstairs or wherever you have the nearest calendar hanging, and you should circle yesterday's date as a reminder, because yesterday fundamentally the world changed. Unless you've been living in a bubble, you've all heard about the assassination, the murder of, right-wing activist Charlie Kirk while he was speaking at a university in Utah. And I was mad about it, seething rage. And I thought, I'm not going to post yesterday's recording that I did. I'm going to sleep on it. And if I feel like posting it in the morning, meaning this morning, that I would do so. But you know what? I woke up this morning even more fucking pissed off than I was yesterday. I've been inundated with this news, and, at risk of sounding morbid, I think everyone should Google search out the unredacted video, so without the blurred out things and stuff like that, and the full video of what led up to the assassination, and then also the follow-up of what was going on after the assassination. So when I woke up this morning, not only was I more fucking pissed off than I was yesterday about it, but I reached a whole new level of rage when I turn on the news, or not even turn on the news, but open my social media. So let's start there. So, for those of you that didn't know who Charlie Kirk was, he was a kid. He was 31 years old. Just a young up and comer. Used to be Donald Trump Jr.'s literally fucking coffee boy, bag boy, errand boy. 20 years old, I think, is when they met. And within a short number of years, started this organization, Turning Point USA, which now has an operating budget of, I read somewhere, of $200 million a year. Okay, so we're talking big money. This guy had huge influence, big money, and he was just an average Joe kid. Probably a nerdy kid, judging how fucking feverish he was about politics, even at a young age. And no college degree, just a regular Joe, and was passionate about something and turned it into one of the biggest conservative youth movements, I think it is, in the world, not even in the continental United States, but like the biggest conservative youth movement in the world. It brought conservative youths out of, like, I don't want to say out of the closet, but it brought them out of the shadows. They're immersed. For my listeners that have kids, I don't have to tell you this. I don't even have kids. I just hear stories from my friends with children and the struggles that they're going through because of this fucking woke indoctrination. Oh, words are violence and violence is words, and but when violence is violence, like when they shoot a fucking guy in the neck while he's engaging in open dialogue, probably one of the only Republican people that was seriously kind, pushed back on things that he believed in, but was never, the saying is, when they go low, you go high. Everything that you see on the internet from him, he's done that. By all accounts, a very nice guy, very caring, and they fucking killed him because he spoke about that he loved his God, that he loved his country, that he thought that it's not weak for people that want to live in loving relationships and raise families, where the woman is fine to raise a family and stuff like that, and she doesn't have to be the boss babe, and just wholesome American values. Whether you agreed with him or not is another point, but it wasn't like, let's say, the left, the transgender movement. Like, it was nothing like that. He wasn't talking about going after your kids or anything like that. He was one of the only Republicans that had that much pull and power with the White House that he would go around on his dime, and literally one of his quotes was, "When discourse ends, the violence starts." So this was a guy that just wanted to get in front of people. I seen him at rallies. He would start his rallies, "Is there anybody out there that disagrees with me?" And like literally hundreds of people would put up their hand, and he'd be like, "Okay, I want all of you guys to come to the front of the line." This wasn't a guy that was shying away from the issues that he believed that were controversial. This was a guy that he's like, give me the chance Let me hear your side of it. Then I'm going to tell you my side of it. And at the end of the day, I can either convince you of joining my team, you may convince me of joining your team, or we might just part ways agreeing to disagree. Like, is there anything wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with that would warrant some fucking piece of shit to fucking kill this guy in public in front of thousands of people just because he, for whatever fucking reason? Like, is there a reason? There can't be any fucking reason. The guy was 31 years old. He was a father, had 2 little kids, right? The group that espouses words are violence, but when violence is violence, you see them all over social media. You see them in the aftermath of the assassination at the place, fucking cheering, standing up, laughing, cheering. There's fucking assholes all over the internet. I just seen a video sent to me by a friend where it's this group of people there. I think it was in Utah. They're outside with megaphones and they're singing a song. We got Charlie in the neck, and who's next? And you have to see these videos, folks. Don't shield yourself from the videos because you have to see the rawness of these videos. You have to see what we're dealing with. It's always violence is never the answer. And that always comes from people that used violence. And then when they seen that, they've really stirred up a fucking hornet's nest. Now all of a sudden violence is not the answer. And I'm not calling for violence out there, but I'm just calling for my friends and I'm just calling for everybody that has any sort of soul or morals left in them to wake up and see what the fuck it is that's happening. They killed this guy in cold blood because they didn't like the fact that he was espousing his truth, whether you believe it or not. I'll be honest with you. I wasn't the biggest Charlie Kirk fan. There was a lot of stuff that I totally agreed with him on. It always cringed me out, like he was a very devout Christian, no doubt about it. That guy could spit Bible verses like like he was Tupac. But the bottom line is, that was one of the things that was always cringy to me because, again, those who know me, I'm not big on organized religion, but I'm leaning closer to it these days because, again, as I've been saying, there's evil afoot. And we're living through it. And if the media hasn't scared you yet, it should scare you now. Anybody that's been following the legacy media, like your MSNBCs, let me talk about our illustrious Canadian media, the CBC. It's like crickets up here. When Donald Trump almost got assassinated twice, it was on every news channel. It was in every newspaper. It was everywhere. When this happened, my wife, we actually were on YouTube seeing when it was, and it was uncomfortably long after his assassination was announced everywhere else that Canadian media actually posted a story on it, and it was it wasn't a very comprehensive story. You know what I mean? And that should scare everybody. The media in the United States, they're getting a lot of backlash. There's been people fired already, but they had one fucking yahoo on, can't remember what his name was now off the top of my head, but he was like, oh, we don't know that was a shooter. That could have been a supporter firing off a weapon in celebration. This is what this guy said. They shot Charlie Kirk in the neck in front of everybody, and this fucking guy just can't bring himself to say it. With more details being released today, there was a report saying that the shells in the rifle that they found had transgender and anti-fascist ideology statements engraved into the shell casings when they found the rifle. Now, MSNBC, they could not bring themselves to report on because it goes against the narrative, right? The trans groups, they just want to be loved. They're just like everybody else. They just want to be loved. No, right? Per capita, they're the most violent bunch of mentally ill people that we've just let run loose and run ramshack over our lives. We have to let these people in the girls' bathroom. We have to let these people play in women's sports. We have to address these fucking mentally ill people with their pronouns. It's the only mental illness that I can think of where subscribing to their delusions is the remedy to make them better. It's the craziest thing. Right? It's like saying that if you had the panache to harm people and eat their flesh, and in order for you to get better, all of your friends and everybody that you ever encounter has to fucking sit down and have lunch with you. It's crazy. It's crazy. And when I was talking about these things that you experience in life that change you, this was one of those. September 11th was one for me personally, probably for a lot of you as well, where you can pinpoint a definite life before this moment and a life after this moment. And yesterday was one of those days for me. I don't think there's a single event that's ever, or string of events, let's say, that's ever enraged me or radicalized me more. And moving forward from here, I vow that I will do everything in my power to fight this fucking virus that has infested our society. My news feed this morning, I have friends that we share inappropriate humor, get good laughs, that were, experiencing such glee and happiness that this father, because he wanted people to fucking talk things out, was murdered, and people in the crowd were fucking cheering about it. And then my news feed this morning is people cheering about it. It's fucking horrendous, man. These people clearly have no soul, and I'm washing my hands of all of you. If you're on my feed and you post, you know what, it's a good thing that he took a bullet or whatever because he, was like anti-trans or whatever, which he wasn't. He spoke facts. I think that most level-headed society, we are fucking done with this fucking nonsense. Men can't be women. Sorry, fellas. I got no problem you wearing your mom's pumps and throwing on a sundress, and a push-up bra. But you're not a woman. For shits and giggles, I'll even call you a she. But if I'm drunk and I mistakenly call you a he, well, fuck you, right? I'm sorry. You still, the the Adam's apple thing. What's the saying? If it's got an apple, it's got a banana. So I think society is waking up to this fact of this nonsense, that we're done with it. And we're witnessing in front of our very eyes the lengths that this infestation of deviance will go to in order to literally silence it. You know, they're all about inclusivity unless you just don't think like them. Then they'll kill you. Then they'll shoot you in the fucking neck. Or if you're a president, then they'll try to assassinate you. Or they'll fucking slash your face on a train. Or, let's talk about one of the precursors to the Charlie Kirk assassination. The young Ukrainian girl that got stabbed in the neck coming home from her pizza job, fled the country of Ukraine, fled her war-torn country to come to a better country and make something of herself, worked at some shitty-ass pizza job, comes home from there, is riding the train, and some fucking lowlife just ends her life in front of a train full of people that didn't lift a fucking finger to help this lady out, this girl. It was like a full minute and a half before somebody, and I will say it was an African-American fella that, and I believe it was an African-American lady as well, that finally pop into the video, and the guy rips his shirt off and he's, trying to stop the bleeding and stuff like that. It's heartbreaking, and you got to see the full video. And I'm not saying that because I'm morbid, but you got to see the full video to understand the animals that we're dealing with. These fucking people are animals. And now, some of you might say, well, the guy on the train was nothing to do with politics. Indirectly, there was. Because this was a felon who's been released 14 times for violent offenses by an unqualified magistrate, also of the DEI hiring process. So she let one of her brothers off 14 times, and he ends up murdering a girl in front of a train full of other people who didn't lift a finger. And the mayor of North Carolina, I believe is who it was on there saying, we shouldn't judge the guy because we don't know the hurt that he's going through. As if that is some sort of excuse to fucking slit strangers' throats on a train. Oh, you know what, man? I'm not feeling too good about myself today, and fucking here you go. We're living in crazy times. And unless we're going to open ourselves up to this vile carnage, you're living in a bubble. You're living in a bubble, folks. And it's time for people to start looking around and seeing who your people are, man. Because it's coming. Now, they're still looking for the shooter in the Charlie Kirk assassination. It's still early. I think today they released footage of some young guy that they think. As soon as I seen the old guy that they nabbed, it's like, that ain't the shooter. You know what I mean? And a friend of mine had sent me the raw, unedited footage. And this was before Facebook even was announcing that he had been shot. I get this message from a friend, and he's like, fuck, look at this. And it was a close-up view, and it was horrific. It was horrific. The guy was kind, taking questions, banter back and forth, and they just put a hole in his neck, and, when the reports did come out, it said that, he was like rushed to the hospital and he was in stable condition. But my friend and I, after we watched that video, both of us were like, yeah, you're not going to limp away from a grave injury like that. It was horrific. And as the cell phone footage pans out into the crowd, there's like fucking people laughing and cheering. Like, I'm at a loss for words, man. I am the king of inappropriate humor. And I'll let some zingers go. And, I've had family going like, Jesus. But to see that amount of, well, what you'd imagine would be probably one of the most traumatic things you'd ever fucking witness in life. No, if you're sitting at a fucking concert and 20 feet away, some guy gets a hole blown into his neck, you wouldn't think that that's traumatic. You'd think, hey, you know what I should do in this moment? I should fucking dance. So these are your neighbors. These are your classmates in this case, these soulless ghouls who, he doesn't think the way that I think, and now he's dead and everything, everything is fucking tickety-boo. It just blows my mind. The North Carolina thing with the people on the train that just like walked more or less over her as she's bleeding out and looking at her and just like, fuck, I got shoes to buy. It's horrifying. But these are the monsters that we're dealing with. And I'm telling you right now, I'm done dealing with these monsters. I'm done with it, man. I'm done being the nice guy. I'm done, you can't say that or you can't do that. You know what? Fuck you. You're mentally ill and you're a virus. You're a virus. You're a scourge on society. The violence, just the chaos. You just thrive. You thrive on chaos. You killed a guy because what? He loved God and he loved his country. He valued family. And, he was killed because he was powerful. Turning Point USA is one of, like I said earlier on in the show, is one of the largest, it's the biggest conservative youth movement in the world. It basically, if it didn't win Trump the elections, it certainly was a major contributor in the elections. The conservative youth vote, they came out in droves because these poor kids have been driven into the shadows by these woke institutions, and words are violence. And, and if you're a manly guy, you're a misogynist and you should be ashamed of yourself because you're probably going around, assaulting women. And, if women had a choice between a bear and a man, they'd choose the bear, right? Like, I mean, really, this is the kind of mentality that we're now faced with. And if you're not hip to this yet, you better fucking smarten up, because it's not just in the United States, it's here in Canada too. I have a family member, an older family member, who isn't hip on the social medias and stuff like that didn't know about the North Carolina person, the Ukrainian girl that got murdered. Didn't hear about it. Why? Because the Canadian media goes against their narrative, right? If it was a white person that killed an immigrant, well, it would have 24/7 news feed. But because the races were reversed, well, we can't let the people know about stuff like that because that goes against our narrative of what we're trying to accomplish. Are you folks waking up yet? Do you guys realize that they're quashing our culture? It's not about inclusivity. It's about taking over, because if you don't believe in the bullshit that they're slinging, they'll just fucking kill you for it. They couldn't fight Charlie Kirk with facts and truth, so they just fucking killed him to silence his voice because he was powerful. $200 million a year operating budget, Turning Point USA. That's a lot of influence, man. A lot of influence. And whether you're a lefty or you're a righty, you know, it just seems to me that a lot of this fucking terrible violence is coming from one side and one side only. Sure, both sides have violent people, but per capita, like how many mass shootings, like recently, all by this transgender ideology? They're fucking with our kids' minds. And someone like Charlie Kirk, who is like swaying the minds of the youngsters back into more of a fucking reality, he's a big threat. Because the powers that want to fucking control everything, right? They're going to do whatever it is that they can to stack the deck in their favor. And someone like a Charlie Kirk, or someone that's exposing the fact that liberal, soft on crime legislation and laws are the reason that Canada is turning into a cesspool of violent crime, that America is turning into a catch and release to violent criminals, and the citizens who pay for all of this, for the protection, to make sure that our streets are safe, they're penalized for it, because God forbid if you say anything, well, you're a racist. Or if you do anything, well, it had homophobic underpinnings. No, the guy was getting weird in the girls' bathroom when my daughter was there, so I stuffed his head in a toilet and gave him a swirly until he fucking turned blue. That's all that happened. We're like cuffed, that we can't do anything about it. We just have to, yeah, that's just the way the world is nowadays. No, it's not the way that the world is nowadays. It's the way that we let the world turn. Because we're good people, and, let's give a little to get a little, right? And all it is take. And if they can't take any more, or they see that their gravy train, whatever it may be, is coming to an end, which this whole transgender gender ideology, I think, is coming to a fucking screeching halt here real quick. If anything, yesterday's assassination almost cemented that into the fucking way that things are going to turn out, because I think that people are just fucking sick and tired of it. I'm not going to appease mentally ill people. And I am going to defend my family and my fucking property with everything that I have. Know that. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. I don't even know, how, how do you sign off from something like that, you just get bombarded with this stuff, and it feels very orchestrated, Oh yeah, violence is coming from both sides. It's not, it's not. I just find it very ironic that the movement that espouses that words are violence, when violence is actual violence, then they're all over the TikToks and the social feeds. They're celebrating They're celebrating violence. And you know what? You have turned me into a lifelong enemy. And I know a lot of people feel the same way. And I'm going to do everything in my power to quash this virus that you've become. So, folks, like I said, start looking around for, the people that are in your corner. And be safe out there, because it is crazy. Our politicians here in Canada, it's not the Wild West. It's like, well, I don't know what fucking movies you've been watching, but this is worse than the Wild West. Right? In the Wild West shows, the bad guys always got their comeuppance. And it seems like when we look around nowadays, it just seems like the good guys are always getting dry fucked. Anyway, folks, thanks for all the support. I know some of you, especially some of my American friends, are really in a state of shock and mourning. The United States isn't some banana republic, where they just fucking, there's just some fucking dude in the crowd with a pistol. Right? And it's a dark, dark day for humanity. They killed a 31-year-old, bright, he was bright, he was hardworking, he was a nice guy. He just wanted to leave the world a better place for his kids to grow up in. And whether you agreed with a lot of his points, he lived how he died, man. And that bullet that was meant to silence him, I think it has, you don't know it just yet, but I think it's really going to backfire for those people that thought that it would silence him, because I think you just created like a million more of him. A million more that are more savvy to your evil ways, and that will probably now bring the fight to your door. Anyway, folks, thanks again for tuning in. Take care of yourselves, man. Protect yourselves. Take care of yourselves. And love one another. See ya.